Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. Testing 1 2. All right, perfect. What's up, everybody? Supreme Decisions here, and today we're going to talk about bad facts in law and how we turn our weaknesses with those bad facts into strategy. Now, every lawyer has faced it. Even pro se litigants, they have faced this. You're sitting down, you're reviewing discovery, and then it hits you. A fact you wish you did not have. Maybe it's an excited utterance. Maybe it's something that was taken in as a confession that you did not realize. Maybe it's an incriminating text that you sent. Maybe it's surveillance footage you didn't even know existed, and it doesn't match your story of events. These are what we call bad facts. Now, these are also terms in which we talked about yesterday. Here, where I spoke about you just yelling, I don't care what you do. That is a bad fact. Now, they're just real bad pieces of evidence that cut against you. And here's a hard truth. Bad facts can win or lose cases. Now, today we're going to deep dive into what bad facts are, why they matter so much, and how the best in this country turn them from fatal blows into survival hits. Today we'll study how the Supreme Court has handled cases where a single fact shifted the entire analysis. We'll explore strategies, suppression, reframing, minimizing, and flipping the narrative. All right, because make no mistake, if you don't control your bad facts, the other side will weaponize it. And this is something you will be doing as well, weaponizing bad facts. Now, by the end of this, you'll see the bad facts aren't the end of the road. They're just obstacles waiting to be managed. Notice what I just said, managed. And sometimes opportunities waiting to be seized. Now, what are bad facts? In law, bad facts are facts in a case that, if emphasized, weaken your position and strengthen your opposing party's case. They're not bad because they're false. They're bad because they're usually true. And they work against your theory and your credibility or your ability to win. Now, elements of a bad fact. It undermines your legal argument or your narrative. Now, this is something that we talk about when we talk about the police body cams and the police reports, because they generally don't line up. Because again, I say it over and over again, police aren't allowed to tell the truth because they're using stock language, which is why every report across the country damn near reads the same, because everybody's learning the language of policing. Now, there are issues that can make you look guilty, untrustworthy, negligent, or unsympathetic. Now, this isn't always a bad fact, because one of the things that I generally tell people to do in certain cases is be who you are. For me, not gonna shield it, not gonna act like it's not possible. I'm an asshole. I get it. So me trying to be something other than that, it shows. It shows that I'm attempting to hide something from you, and juries can see that. So when I was in trial and I was doing questioning, I was cynical, I was snarky, I was actually charming at times, because that's who I am. I turned on what was needed at the time. I was even witty, asking questions and then making people laugh, because laughter is the great uniter. And now a bad fact that can come up, it can actually support the other side's claim or defends you more than you can or your original story. Now, a bad fact was I was followed. That's a bad fact. They watched me do certain things. Bad facts. They actually had my handwriting on certain paperwork. Bad fact. Now, how did I get out of that? I accepted it as it was true. And then I have had the questioning of the other facts that went along with it. Since I wasn't trying to hide it and I owned it, now you have to explain what about it was detrimental, or what did you do legally, which they had no legal grounds because they didn't follow the law when they admitted what I did was not illegal. Now, examples of a bad fact. In a criminal case, a defendant confessed before asking for an attorney. Now, this is why I constantly say this. Due to the Fifth Amendment and the advice of counsel, I choose not to answer this or any further questions. Don't know how many times I can say that. Don't know why people don't listen, other than the fact they have the inability to shut up. That's just what it is. Understand you have the right to remain silent, and if they continue, now everything they do is up for suppression. Now, let's say there's a video showing the defendant near the crime scene, which is maybe yourself. And also, prior to conviction, or similar to you have a prior conviction that is similar to the current charge. Now, this is one of the great misnomers. Sometimes that prior conviction is an issue because, again, you can own it. The problem myself and my other two brothers had was me and one of my brothers, we had horrible records because we had been arrested probably damn near 100 times between two of us. But we did have a brother who did not have a record. But one of the things the jury has to hear is that you or someone sitting at your table say you are innocent. He was that person. The problem is the way he said it. Because he said, if I commit the crime, send me to jail. And I'm like, that's not how you say I'm innocent. However, because he was so emphatic with it, he caught the juror's attention. So I then weaponized that statement and stated, you didn't hear someone say I was guilty. You didn't hear it on the stand. You're not going to read it in the evidence book. But these are things that are, one, they're bad facts. But we use them and use bad statements as weapons to prove our innocence. Now, that's not going to always work. Now, understanding this, right? There's a distinction between bad facts and inadmissible facts. When you're talking about that, you must understand the inadmissible facts are facts that are irrelevant or gotten about in an illegal manner. Those are, you don't worry about the inadmissible because you can then push them into the field where they need to be, which is not part of the case. And one of the things is the issue of jurors and judges being fixated on damaging details. Now, there are going to be times where I'm going to teach you what to do during trial and during questioning. And they're very subtle, and it's things I've used. One is, let's say there's a distinctive, what do you call that? Statement that's being made that's damaging. Sneeze. Achoo! Real simple. Snaps everybody off guard. And what goes on is now they're no longer thinking about what was just said. They're thinking the natural reaction of, oh, God bless you. Because that's the programming of a United States citizen. Someone that'll be sitting on that bench. This is one of those things that we've discussed. But again, so it throws off the rhythm of the other party. And these things, again, catch the attention of the jury. Don't do it like a hell of a lot. Sneeze. These are, because again, they're natural reactions. Who's going to say you didn't sneeze? But if you get outrageous with it, they're going to know you're attempting to hide something. So be selective in what you're doing. Matter of fact, go get some tissue. Make it, when you're putting on the show, make sure the show is put on. And even in constitutional cases, your consent to a search before later claiming a Fourth Amendment violation. Again, that's the, I don't care what you do. I ain't got nothing. And then we watched one officer in Virginia plant almost 1,000, plant evidence on almost 1,000 drivers. You have another one in South Georgia that planted on 400. You had another one in New York that did it on 400. You had multiple in New York that had done it on hundreds of drivers. So to ever tell, I don't care what you don't know, you can't search my car. Go get a warrant. That is always the response. I don't consent to any searches, and you can go get a warrant. Make sure you step away. Now here's the recommendation: step away, because now the exigent circumstances are gone. Take those away from them. The idea of not being safe, those are taken away. And always understand, evidence shows discriminatory intent, but you have prior discriminatory statements on record. When you're sitting up there just cussing at someone and calling them names, that does not help you. Being angry and vexed, as my brother used to say, vexing these people is not an aid for you. Because yes, you're going to be upset. And for me, I'll drop an F-bomb in a minute because that's how I speak. But I don't name call. Matter of fact, most of the time when a cop pulls me over, I'm smiling because they're handing me money in some effect. Because I'm, depending on the level of their assholishness, I'm going to take everything they believe they love. And even in some contexts, I just hold them up in court. Just keep them in the chokehold. Because like I said, I'll take you to the deep end and just let you discover who you are prior to me drowning you. These are the things that I talk about because this is life. As one of the guys I spoke to today, litigation is life. These putting up these challenges before them is life. And understanding the context of what it is that we're doing. Because even in cases that have bad facts, is Miranda v. Arizona. That's a case we use constantly. The bad fact was the defendant actually confessed without warnings. Now, that is exactly why the case is actually a binding case now. Because he just confessed, and even the court created Miranda rights to exclude bad facts gaining unfair advantages. That's why we have Miranda warnings. Terry v. Ohio, again, from bad facts. The defendant was clearly casing a store. Bad fact. Defense still argued stop and frisk went too far. The court balanced safety versus Fourth Amendment rights because they did not want, again, go right back to Miranda v. Arizona, did not want bad facts to gain an unfair advantage. Because even in civil example, Palgraf v. Long Island Railroad, bad facts. The plaintiff was far from the explosion. The result, Cardozo said no proximate cause, a bad facts doomed recovery. In Grisha versus Ford Motor Company, the Pinto case, a bad fact for Ford, internal memo showing cost-benefit analysis of living versus redesign, turned jury against Ford and huge punitive damages. Because even in constitutional cases, Wren v. United States, a defendant's traffic violation justifies stop, even if pretextual. It showed how one simple failure to signal insulated police conduct. Because, yes, Renby, Arizona gives them the right to pull you over for a valid infraction. The problem is, police have now weaponized it to make you believe it's a crime when it's not. Because they never refer to Ren in this as a criminal, and they do never refer to the infraction, which they state 100 times in it, as a criminal act. Why? There is no corpus delicti, no injured party on an infraction, unless there is damage to a person or property. Because that is the elements of a crime. That is also the elements of standing. I give you the, I give you the game. I give you $1 worth of game and you turn it into nothing. Just understand the pretext and everything that goes on. There is a reason behind it. So whenever they ask you, well, how do you know it's not a crime? Ask them, how do you have standing? These are simple answers because these are simple court cases. I didn't make them up. They're written down. You can go look at them. And even in the context of, like I said, civil, a plaintiff suing for negligence wasn't wearing a seatbelt in a car accident. You are actually part of the cause. A contract breach was partly triggered by the plaintiff's own failure to perform. This is what I see more often than not. They want to say someone else breached. The problem is they have no idea what they're looking at in the contract. And in fact, they're the ones who breached the contract by not performing. And damages claimed seem inflated, compared to actual loss. Now, this is more often than not in a federal case because certain points of damage cannot be calculated. Goodness, you know what? Let me. If you ever want to know what I drink, this is my favorite drink. Arizona. We'll get my finger off of it. RX. There we go. RX. That's what I drink. Let me back it up. Don't worry about it. My face is in. That's what I drink. That's my favorite drink in the world. And Rockstar. I occasionally throw a Rockstar in there, but that is my drink. Arizona, I'm going to get them. That Circle K. But anyway, a constitutional case. You consent to a search before later claiming the Fourth Amendment violated. And then courts and juries often decide cases on narratives and credibility. So when they become fixated on a particular fact or a narrative, it is more difficult to get them to change that idea than it is to actually perform and do something to redirect their thinking. And single damaging facts can shift the balance if it undermines your story. Because again, you're picking a jury that is most receptive to your story. And the great part about it, you need one. The prosecution needs 12. Always understand that. And if you think about it this way, the reason why they lose 76% of all cases is because sit down in the room with 20 people or 12 people and see how many of them agree with any statement that you come up with. While it may seem insignificant, always understand this is what it is, and this is what a prosecutor must do each time they go to trial, which is why they don't want to go to trial. Because it's difficult to get 12 people to agree on anything. Bad facts can force you into a weaker legal position, like arguing technicalities instead of equities. Now, this is the fun part for me. Because this is when people argue feelings and ideas and shoulds instead of the law. You want to tell me every incremental detail of a stop when it has little to nothing to do with whatever happened to you. Now, when you're doing that, you are not helping yourself. Now, the next step is I'm going to give you 4 strategies for handling bad facts. Acknowledge and reframe. Because what did I just talk about that I did in my own case? I acknowledged, I accepted it. And then I reframed it and put it right back on the police. But that's an art. Why? This never stopped working, and these were on overtime because I used everything that they said against them. Because you can't argue with yourself, because either you were lying then or you're lying now. And one lie destroys 1,000 truths. And this is something that I bank on because they don't realize, one, if you are defending your own interests, they're not looking for you to be that intelligent to do it because they're watching YouTube just like you are. They're watching the guys go up there and the young ladies go up there and holler and scream and you can't do this and you can't do that, when that has nothing to do with law, because law doesn't care about emotion. Law cares about itself. And also, having integrity has a long way to go, because when you don't show any extra emotions, when they're unnecessary, you are more believable. And this is one of the things that you have to do, because even when you acknowledge and reframe, you concede the fact, but explain why it doesn't change the liability. Yes, I ran, but maybe because I watch police officers mistreat people that look like me more often than not. And I'm not guilty of a crime. Notice I didn't say I was innocent. I just said I'm not guilty of this crime. These are the things that jurors need to hear. You can go in the context of evidence suppression. Excuse me. I actually just interrupted my own little spiel there. Anyway. Where am I at? Okay. Excuse me, one more time. Excuse me. All right. Now you can minimize, put bad facts in larger context. For example, seatbelt defense in negligence cases. Argue proximity cause still lies elsewhere. Because you can state that just because you wasn't wearing a seatbelt and you did gain energies from it, it was the fault of the other driver from running the light or changing lanes too quickly. These are things that you can actually acknowledge, accept, and then you minimize it to keep it in your advantage. Or you can use bad facts to show honesty or humanity. Goodness, man. Anyway, you admit, excuse me, this is crazy. Anyway, this is why I don't do live shows. I hate doing them because I sneeze or something and can't edit it out. Anyway, let's say you have drug use, but you use this is out of hand. Let me get something to drink real quick. Anyway, you explain vulnerability and limited culpability, because even if you want to go in and make sure that you're not giving away too much for the most part, you want to make sure that you identify every unfavorable fact early. Make sure you know where they are. Categorize it as if it's devastating, manageable, or minor, because these are keys that are opening doors in your strategy. Decide whether you're going to suppress, explain, or reframe. You're going to basically weaponize these bad facts into your favor. And then you're going to prepare. Never let opposing counsel be the first to weaponize it, because once that happens and the jury hears it, they can't unhear it. Because even in something as early as voir dire, which is picking a jury, Address the facts with jury to test bias. Most people don't even think about that. Because when you're picking a jury, you're picking someone that's receptive. You don't want someone that's going to come in that's predisposed to not liking you or not listening to you, because both of those are crucial to your case. Now, in cross-examination, control the spin before opposing counsel does. What you want to do is make sure you're asking questions that frame this bad fact into your favor. Understand, do not ask a question you don't already know the answer to. Now, I'll give you a couple alternative perspectives. You can maximize your approach, because keep every bad fact out there as a motion practice. Basically, just kind of, I hate to use the word ignore, but if you're going to accept them as true, you must allow them to be true at all times. And then you go with a narrative approach. You control story by acknowledging flaws in your case, because now that will be you're going to be explanatory approach. And then the psychological approach is jurors respect honesty and punish concealment. Now, the lesson I want you to take tonight is bad facts are inevitable. No case is perfect. Everyone comes with baggage. Every record has holes, and every trial has moments you wish you could erase. But being a great litigator, let's call it that, isn't about having a perfect case. It's about mastering imperfections and putting them in a way that completes your narrative or the views of the story that gets you the results you're looking for. When you identify your bad facts early, you can disarm the other side. When you reframe them, you protect your credibility. I'm going to say that one more time. When you reframe them, you protect your credibility. And when you flip them into strengths, you transform weakness into strategy. That's the real art of advocacy. Now, let's think about Miranda. The bad fact, a confession without warnings. It reshaped constitutional law. Think about Gresham v. Ford. The bad facts, Ford's internal memo, changed corporate accountability forever. Because remember, I told you about the small things. If you think you're fighting back is small and insignificant, spend a night in a room with 2 mosquitoes and see how insignificant those 2 mosquitoes are. And don't fear your bad facts. Study them, plan for them, own them, because at the end of the day, bad facts don't have to sink your case unless you allow them to. This is Supreme Decision. That was my 2 cents. Spend it how you like. And I'll see you in a little while.